Hi guys, we're back. We're going to start on Genesis where we left off on chapter 1 verse 2. Well, between verse 1 and verse 2. If you haven't unpacked verse 1, I need you to go back to my very first video and that'll explain verse 1. And I know it's just a verse, but there's a lot to unpack there, and it's only 10 minutes, so these videos are pretty, condensed down. That being said, let's get started. So last week we learned in this first verse, chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the word created is something we're going to talk about today still. It's bara. It could either be spelled Barah or Bara. So this word means to create out of nothing. And we will go further deeper into this, but for now we're going to concentrate on what comes in between verse 1 and verse 2. Okay? There's a lot of theory that goes into this. It's a very hotly debated topic between scholars and Christians. I'm not going to debate this with you. I am going to give you the information. I'm going to let you pray to God on that and discern, ask for wisdom and discernment to judge what you believe and what God tells you and speaks to you about, okay? So, because that's not my job. That's your job between you and the Creator. So, we're going to come in between verse 1 and verse 2. The first thing I want to get out of the way is some vocabulary. This word means, I think it's pronounced yom, and it means a day. This is taken from, ancient Hebrew. It means a 24-hour period day. From sunset to sunset begins a day. That's how it was back in time. From sunset to sunset was a 24-hour period day, yom. Okay, so this is very important. Came from the Bible. This is what was transcribed into English into Genesis. Okay. We're going to start with the Genesis Big Bang Theory, aka Old Earth. It is exactly the same as Big Bang Theory, except for that God is the cause. So that is the only difference between Genesis Big Bang Theory and Big Bang Theory. With Genesis Big Bang Theory, God is the cause. God speaks the universe into being. As you can see from my little diagram, it's, what it is. He speaks it into being, and it spreads and stretches out over time. It doesn't just stay singular. It stretches out into that cone. At the end of that cone, on the opposite side of God speaks universe into being, that's science. That's us. And we look backward in time, okay? Because we weren't there at the beginning. So we look backward in time. The Bible looks forward in time. So from God's perspective, God is outside of time, but from the Bible's perspective, it looks at creation in that 24-hour period, 6 days to create the earth going forward. Science looks at it going backwards. So what may seem like, billions of years is, from the Bible's perspective is 6 days, because time stretches. That 1 second at the beginning stretches over time. By the time it gets to us and catches up, it's been billions of years. That is the redshift theory. That is the Big Bang theory. So you could argue, well, maybe days back then were millions of years old. Well, from science point of view, looking backward in time, sure. Going forward from the biblical way, it would only be 6 24-hour day periods, which is the word yom. Again, if you look at it through redshift theory, which is what Einstein was working on, it would look that way from our perspective. Okay, so it'd be many, many years. When God created man on the 6th day, the Bible begins to look at it from the earth's perspective, man's perspective, because the Bible is God's revelation to man, okay? And that's why it starts to look at time through man's eyes, through earth's eyes, earth's being. So prior to man being created, the Bible viewed time from the beginning. But once man is created, It looks through it at time through man's eyes. 1 second goes by as time keeps expanding. Time expands at the same rate. So by the time that 1 second catches up to us, to our current time, it's super expanded. The measurement of time in the redshift theory and Big Bang theory is a million squared. So if you do all that math, you can go look this theory up. But that gives a perspective into the Genesis, Big Bang, old Earth theory. That is one theory. Now we're going to come into gap theory, aka young Earth. And all this is meaning there's a gap between verse 1 and verse 2. So let's describe that. In verse 1, as you can see here, it says it describes the original creation of the world, which occurred billions and billions of years ago. Then there's God's judgment. There's verse 2, which just describes the condition of the earth after its destruction. And verse 3 is when God recreated the world. So in gap theory, it is called the ruin and restoration theory. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Lucifer ruled over it with the pre-Adamic race. Lucifer sought to be exalted over or equal to God, and God cast him out of heaven and destroyed the earth, and it was dark and formless. If you go back to some early translation of formless, like when you say bara and formless, it means barren, empty, a state of ruin, or came to be destroyed. So, taking that into consideration, when you go to early scripture, that kind of supports that theory that it was created, God's judgment came on the earth, he flooded the earth, and that's why he was hovering over the waters, because he had flooded the earth. Lucifer brought the first sin into the universe, which was pride. The second sin was rebellion. This is all before man's sin. God cast judgment, flooded the earth. The sun and the heat really kind of did this thing on earth. It created this crust, and we had this first ice age. Billions of years go by, and then we hit, boom, verse 2. God's like, we're going to start over. The earth is formless. And then we get into verse 2. So now going back, we're going to read this with theory involved, okay? Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Then we have either the old earth or the new earth theory. Then verse 2. And the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving on the face of the waters. So now let's go and dissect verse 2. Genesis 1:2, and the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving on the face of the waters. If you go to this is from my scripture book, but if you, it keeps to the very close to the original text translation. If you go to King James, it says, now the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. They left out, if you go to the original text, it uses the word asa. I'm sorry, not asa. Haya. Sorry, haya. It is a Hebrew word. It means, it translates came to be. Formless means barren, from ruin, in its original text. So came to be from ruin. So it was destroyed, and it is now in ruin. So that's where that comes from the original text. And that's why my Bible is very close, came to be, or became, to become. And in fact, in my footnotes, it says, or the earth became. Okay? So that kind of supports the gap theory, that it was destroyed, that it was made and then destroyed. So I'm just going to go over some keywords that we went over again. Bara is to create out of nothing. That's in the beginning, God bara the heavens and the earth. Nothing was except God. Nothing was physical except God. Then he spoke, bara, created out of nothing into existence the universe. Now, whether you believe in one theory or the other, it that's up to you. Okay? But he created out of nothing, and then you have your two theories, and then you have verse 2. Bara, this word is considered the more specific term for create and is often used in the Bible to describe God's act of creating the universe from nothing. Important to create out of nothing. Well, because then we get to this word asa. But where does it fit in the Bible? Where does it come from? Okay, so I'm going to read you the King James Version, all right? Verse 3, and God said, let there be light. Then we go to verse 6, and God said, let there be a vault. In verse 9, and God said. So the word said means made, okay, to make or to do, implying the use of existing materials to form something new. Asa means made, and it means to be made from pre-existing materials. It's important that we get these words that are original words translated that are lost to us. Now, my Bible says, that's the King James Version. Mine also says said, and that means made, so we're good. I don't see any other footnotes in mine, but yeah, so made, asa. You have to research these, you have to find these words, you have to have, you don't have to know Hebrew and have to know Greek to be able to look in this day and age. There is Google, you can find it. But it's important that we know what these words mean because it changes the landscape of the Bible. And look, in Hebrew, the word asa is most closely associated with the concept of creating out of pre-existing materials, as opposed to bara, which signifies creation out of nothing. So it is important that we know these words. Now, I'm here at the King James Bible. I've got different kinds of Bibles. This is the King James Version, and here is my scripture version. So it is the same, but also very different because this one has like a lot of stuff in here that this does not. But this is how both of them are how I'm going to unpack the Bible. So whether you believe in the big Genesis Big Bang Theory, or whether you believe in gap theory, or a combination of both, it doesn't matter after this point. So we're going to come here and go together from now on. So next week we will start with verse 3 and we will really start unpacking some stuff. Okay, you're really going to just like have your mind blown. But I hope that this has given you like a foundation of the first 3 verses and all the theories. You need to pray and you need to figure out what the Creator speaks to you on. Until then, I will see you next time.